history is rarely a straight line. We are taught to believe that progress is an anchor, that once a society decides to move forward, the ground beneath our feet locks into place. But if you look closely at the architecture of human rights, you begin to realize that freedom isn't a permanent building. Sometimes it is just a window, a brief, beautiful safety window that opens up just long enough for everyone to catch their breath before someone slams it shut. Think back to the monumental shift, the exact year gay marriage was legalized across the nation. Do you remember how the air felt that summer? It was a collective, historical exhale. For generations, the LGBTQ+ community had survived by mastering the art of the shadow, speaking in codes, meeting in hidden basement bars, keeping their love behind deadbolts. Then, in a single legal moment, the closet doors were thrown open by the highest court in the land. Suddenly, it was okay to just exist. The visibility didn't stop at marriage. In that beautiful open window, trans people weren't just tolerated, they were celebrated. We watched an explosion of courage. High-profile celebrities, cultural icons, and everyday heroes began stepping up to the microphone, shedding their armor, and coming out openly. For the first time in history, a trans kid looking at a television screen didn't see a punchline or a tragedy. They saw a future. They saw joy. Mainstream culture embraced the community with open arms, and for a fleeting moment, the light was so bright that it felt impossible for the darkness to ever return. People let their guard down, they bought homes together, they put their real names on digital profiles, they stepped completely out into the open air, believing the shield of the law would protect them forever. But visibility is a double-edged sword. When you step out of the shadows and into the light, you make it easy for those who love the dark to see exactly where you are standing. It didn't happen overnight. Totalitarian horror never does. It begins with a subtle shift in the wind, a drop in the temperature that you try to ignore. While the community was celebrating, a different kind of energy was gathering on the fringes of the digital world. At first, it was just text on a screen, unfiltered malice confined to anonymous message boards and comment sections. We told ourselves to ignore them. They're just trolls, the world said. They're just losers in basements with no real power. But then, in one fell swoop, the fringe found a vessel. A political figure rose to the stage, carrying a microphone that could reach millions, and began to systematically harvest that online malice. He realized something terrifying. You don't need a logical argument to dismantle a democracy. You just need a ghost story. The hateful rhetoric started spreading like an airborne contagion. It wasn't just vague prejudice anymore. It was an organized, tactical blueprint designed to induce mass paranoia. And the architects of this movement knew exactly where to strike first to get the maximum amount of fear. They targeted the most mundane, private, and basic human space in daily life. Public bathrooms. Think about the psychological cruelty of that choice. They took a routine, everyday room and turned it into a manufactured battleground of panic. They looked everyday citizens in the eye through their television screens and spun a monstrous fable, claiming that trans individuals, who had just been celebrated in the light, were suddenly an existential threat to your children. They completely ignored the math. They threw out the decades of statistical evidence that proved otherwise. They didn't care about the truth. They let pure, raw paranoia do the heavy lifting. If you can make a parent fear for their child's safety in a restroom, you can make them vote for anything. Once the bathroom panic was successfully injected into the public bloodstream, the goalposts were instantly moved. The blueprint expanded to school sports. Suddenly, the conversation wasn't about public safety. It was about a manufactured crisis of fairness. They painted an apocalyptic picture where allowing a trans girl to play youth sports with her classmates would somehow, magically, derail every other girl's future in college and professional athletics. They weaponized the natural anxieties of parents who wanted the best for their kids. And once again, the statistics said otherwise. The data didn't back them up. The actual number of trans youth athletes competing was astronomically small, kids who just wanted to run around a field with their friends and belong. But when you are selling political horror, facts are an impediment. The goal was never to protect women's sports. The goal was isolation. The goal was to make the public sphere so loud, so hostile, and so profoundly terrifying that retreating back into the shadows felt like the only way for the trans community to survive. But a wave of panic, this precise, this highly coordinated across multiple states, doesn't just happen by accident. It requires a grand strategist. Behind the curtain of this movement stood a specific architect who openly admitted that the goal wasn't truth, it was branding. Christopher Rufo, who successfully shaped public sentiment through a calculated media strategy. He transformed academic concepts like critical race theory, CRT, and queer theory into potent political symbols. By leveraging tip lines, publishing leaked internal documents, and driving a relentless cable news narrative, he connected broad social changes to highly visceral, localized controversy. This was the mind that realized if you take an unfamiliar academic term, wrap it in a blanket of terrifying lies, and repeat it across every major news outlet until the public's anxiety peaks, you can completely redefine reality. It was a masterclass in psychological warfare, weaponizing concepts, turning an identity into a boogeyman, and using that ghost story to clear a legal path for discrimination. They didn't just want to win a legislative seat, they wanted to erase an entire community's right to exist in the open air. Now, history tells us that this community has faced monsters before. It wasn't the first time an authoritarian movement had tried to eradicate them or push them back into the dark. But during the previous waves of hatred, there were safeguards. There were legal shields, constitutional protections, and systemic boundaries built by decades of civil rights blood, sweat, and tears. There were guardrails that looked at the hateful rhetoric and said, "You can go no further. Those safeguards are gone." Under the weight of the current administration's harsh stance and venomous opinions about trans people, those protective walls haven't just cracked, they've been systematically dismantled piece by piece. What once felt like concrete federal protection has been revealed as fragile glass. With every executive order, every hostile judicial appointment, and every systematically eroded civil right, the safety net has been pulled away. The true horror of the current administration isn't just the laws they pass, it is the infrastructure they destroy. When the law itself becomes the source of the threat, the entire concept of safety evaporates. The community didn't just lose their peace, they lost their shield. And without a shield, standing in the light becomes a lethal act. And that is when the final boundary broke. Suddenly, the antagonists of this story weren't just trolls shouting into the digital void. They weren't just anonymous voices hiding behind a computer screen or faceless masks whispering behind an invisible microphone. The screen was gone. The mask was off. In one swift, terrifying political shift, those hateful voices were given the ultimate weapon, the blessing of the administration. When the highest halls of power nod in agreement with bigotry, the rhetoric ceases to be just words. It becomes an official permit. They were handed a blank check by the state to do as much damage to the trans community as they wanted, with the explicit understanding that the system would look the other way or actively cheer them on. It was no longer a policy debate on a news broadcast. It was open season on human beings, whispered from the top and executed on the ground by neighbours, employers, and strangers in the street. And so, the mirror image of history completes its cycle. The true horror of the safety window is the trap of visibility. Because the community felt so safe for those 10 beautiful years, they left footprints, they signed marriage certificates, they posted transition timelines on social media, they lived openly, and now, those records are a map for the hunters. We are watching a community forced to perform a heartbreaking act of survival, retreating back into the dark. People are quietly changing their settings to private. They are deleting their digital histories, scrubbing their names from public registries, and burning old photographs. The vibrant, rainbow, light-filled future they were promised has been replaced by the only thing that has ever kept them safe: the shadow.